Dexter here is not allowed on the couch because it's one of his new rules, but these videos go a little bit better if I have dogs in the picture. So Dexter and Rocky's roadmap to success. Now, in this case, as with a lot of my clients, the dogs really didn't have any rules or structure, and so they thought that they had equal status with the humans. And then the humans got to they told the humans what to do, and the humans listened and adhered to it. So that gave them the impression that they were responsible for the humans. But because the humans didn't listen to the dog's corrections and leadership, that stresses the dogs out, and I think that's exasperated the door. Now, we also have two dogs, and they cascade off one another. So we showed in one of the videos that's below this one how to claim the door. It's what I call a door exercise. If it's too hard to hear because of the barking, you can just go to doggoneproblems.com on the left side of the page. If you click on dog training tips, there is a search box and you type in door exercise. You'll see other clients where I worked with it, where you might have better audio if you can't hear it all. Now, in order to help these dogs be less stressful, we're going to need to take away some of their feeling of responsibility. We're going to accomplish that by incorporating rules and structures. So some of the rules I suggested would be no furniture. You're breaking the rule, but you don't know it yet. For at least 30 days for their neural pathways to align, but usually as long as the problem is still going on. After that, it's furniture with permission and with an invitation and only for good behavior. So if he's up here on the couch and then he growls at his buddy Rocky, Dexter would immediately have to get off of the couch. Another rule would be not to having to sit before we let him in or out of a door. Now, for Rocky, because he has back issues, he got to get a pass for this, but I would definitely do it for Dexter. Now, if I tell him to sit and they don't sit right away, I walk away for 1 minute, and I come back and I give him the opportunity to say it, and I say sit again. If he doesn't sit this time, I walk away for 2 minutes, next time for 4 minutes, next time for 8 minutes. So each time I double the length of time, and don't wait by the door, go sit near the door. But so the dog thinks, oh man, I have to wait before a certain period of time before they give me another opportunity to do it. We don't want to repeat a command over and over. The more we say it, the less we mean it as far as dogs are concerned. So say it once, then go make it happen. The dog's barking in the backyard, you say come, it doesn't come. Take the leash down there, go to where the dog is attached to the leash and bring him to where you are. If you tell the dog to sit and they don't sit, get up and follow them. If they go around the table, move the chairs around so he can't go in a loop. But as soon as they go past a door, close the door behind you. You want to kind of take away territory. And eventually they'll find themselves with nowhere else to go, and about 10 feet away from them, then I bark out the order originally again, sit. As soon as the dog sits, at this point, I walk away. I don't pet them. But the dog needs to know that you're willing to stop what you're doing and follow through. Also, dogs should not be allowed within 7 feet of anyone who's eating, and absolutely under no circumstances, no human food from the table at all. If you really have to, we put it away and we give it in their bowl later on with a meal, but that just sends a very confusing message to a dog when we invite them close to us. They shouldn't be within 7 feet when we're eating. Let me see, I'd like the guardians to use passive training. So that's just simply the dog sits on its own next to you, you pet it and say the word sit. If it lays down, you pet it and say down. If it comes to you, you pet it and say come. Just by narrating basically what it's doing, that will make the dog more inclined to do it. And we're not trying to train them, we're just reinforcing a desired action or behavior. The more we do that, the more they'll do that behavior to get the reward. I'd also like them to start petting, especially him, specifically him, petting him with a purpose. So if he nudges us or scratches us with his nose, instead of petting him, we're going to tell him to sit or lay down. As soon as he sits or lays down, we're going to pet him under his chin and say the word sit or lay down. Dogs, when they feel good about themselves, their nose is parallel to the ground or tilted up. If I pet him under his chin, I facilitate that nose up, that good orientation. We're going to use the escalating consequences to disagree with unwanted actions or behaviors. And I'd also like the guardians to practice the door answering ritual with other members of the family. Now remember, call or text each other first so that we know that it's happening. We can wash our hands, be ready to do it, but don't be waiting at the table. Pretend like you're engaged in something else. But when the dogs come to the door, you're able to focus exclusively on them. Now, the guardian it took a little bit longer to actually get him to do it for her because she has a little bit more baggage than I do. I do this for a living. So sometimes it's easier when you have multiple dogs to separate the dogs and practice them one at a time separately and then bring them both together. I'd like the family to practice the door exercise at least twice a day, but the more that we practice it, the better they get. And we want to get to the point where the dogs are staying behind the line on their own within about a week to 10 days. Now, right over there, you can see I laid a chair down outside when the guardian was doing this. So putting something like that creates a smaller access point. Now, if that's what you need to do, that's fine. But then next time you do it, move it 1 inch away from the entry each time. So it gradually gets bigger and bigger, but it's so gradual the dog doesn't recognize it. Make sure we're not petting the dogs when they're in an excited frame of mind, because I think that's a big contributing factor to what's going on. So if you reach to pet the dog and it jumps up or dances around, pull your arm back and go about doing what you're doing. Come back later on when it's calm and try again. I had one dog that was like, and eventually I was able to pet them. So they need to understand that when I'm out of balance and excited, the humans ignore me, but as soon as I'm calm and sitting or I do a desired action behavior, they're all over me. So after a while, they'll do that more and more often. Now, because he's so reactive to the doorbell, we did a little exercise. We did some counter conditioning, which is similar to what the exercise we did about getting him used to having his eyes and his hindquarters touched. Remember, when you're doing counter conditioning, you need to be delivering the reward or reinforcer, in this case the treat, before the doorbell rings. Now, if we're trying to do it here and he can't do it, we need to lower the intensity. The doorbell box is right there, so we could practice this by being in the kitchen. That increases the distance and lowers the volume of the doorbell, and that's going to make it easier for the dogs to listen. Let me see. Practice the treat, the counter conditioning with the treats while we're touching his eyes or the other areas. And if we practice that, I would try to practice that at least once a day, but practicing more often would be better. About 5 to 10 treats each time, nothing too crazy. But after a while, you'll be able to do it without a treat, and he's going to be fine, comfortable with you doing it. Now, he goes to a groomer, and this might be a good video for you to show the groomer, not this one, but the one where we showed, and take him. It might be a nice idea for you to go take him into the groomer, pay the groomer to cut his hair without actually cutting the hair, and just do this exercise only. That way the groomer, I mean, they're working by the hour, and it's not very much fun for them, but the groomer, if he picks up this technique, or she, they might start doing it with other dogs and notice that they get a better response and they get bit less. Groomers get bit a lot. I also like the guardians to make sure that they are feeding the dog only after they eat something first. For the dog door, like I said, just holding the dog door open and tossing a treat, letting him go in and out of it. If the dog's like a ball, sometimes bouncing a ball through it. And then eventually, once they start going through it, then I have somebody on the other side where we're having it go through. We'll hold it up all the way at first, but as soon as the dog puts his head through and starts the motion of going through it, drop the dog door so it hits the dog in the back and they get used to that sensation of feeling it. And then each time we do it, a little bit closer, a little bit closer, a little bit closer down, so that eventually they're just sticking their nose through it and are getting the treat. And sometimes this is helpful if you have one dog. If you just have one person inside the door, one person outside the door, and we're calling them and giving them a treat every time they go through it, now we can rep it a whole bunch. Like I mentioned earlier off camera, dogs learn through repetition, good timing, and consistency. And so if we can go there and rep that a whole bunch, that'll make it easier for them to go through it. Let me see. And then 5 Elements I talked about is a great local vet clinic that does doggy acupuncture and things along those lines. Well, I think Rocky will be highly benefited, so I'll be curious to see what the guardian says after they take him in. All right, that is the roadmap to success for Rocky and Dexter. Remember, everything you do trains your dog, only sometimes you mean it.